Hey, what's going on, y'all? Happy Tuesday. Just wanted to share this new framework that I was thinking through when I was kind of trying to figure out what product should I commit to, what product should I build, who should I work with, which areas of our industry will I most likely have the most success, kind of what am I known for. And so there was a bunch of variables I wanted to kind of align to a scoring mechanism and a way to think about the future, and also a way to avoid kind of getting rug pulled by AI. And so that's kind of what this whole framework was for me. And I figured I'd share it with the community. I'm going to throw it into a really basic, just Google Drive link that I add to this video so other people can pull it down. And I'm going to try to, munge it with some interesting little prompts and see what we get out of it. And I'm going to kind of role play as people in other roles. Maybe I'll use some of my own kind of logic and questioning to go through this. But, as you all know, the speed at which AI is able to kind of really replace tasks and compress tasks and augment enterprises is just outstanding. And I think another challenge about this entire experience that we're living through, and I'm a huge AI user. I've adopted various tooling, and I've also built my own kind of like agentic workflows, my custom little agentic orchestrator, multi-model, hyper-indexed on token costs. I'm also cryptographically signing all the tasks that my agents do and all the sequences that they're conducting. And I'm actually measuring them. I came up with a rubric that's automatically calculated against the task type. And it's not just a single agent, it's like an agentic sequence. That's for another video. I'll go through that some other time, but that's called Glitch Lab. And kind of something I wanted to focus on though was, how is all this stuff affecting us? How is it affecting perhaps you and your situation? And so that's what I wanted to climb through today and just think through some of this stuff. So the title I kind of gave this framework was Task Compression and the Human Advantage Framework. And those are two really interesting components of this, because as you'll read this information, and I'm going to skim through it live on the video, and then you could kind of like interpret it, play with it on your own time, and kind of make sense of it if it does make sense to you, and just do whatever you need to do with it. I think it's just like a philosophy document, but it's very technical, and I think it's broad enough that it could help. But really kind of what AI has done in a unique way, it's traded like tokens for hours. And tasks are incredibly compressed, and they're so much faster, and you could do more of them, especially the closer they are to syntax or code. And it's funny because as soon as we first saw AI come out, we saw it like generate some text, and we were like, oh my goodness, I gave it some themes and topics and it wrote like a narrative for me. And like, I think AI is really good at writing, if you're skilled at kind of guiding it, but it's actually it hasn't progressed in the textual creative sense that I would have expected it to. You can kind of see the patterns in the wild. And I haven't gotten too deep on this, but all of like the, this, then that kind of statements, and like the perfect staging of logic when it's kind of writing something. It doesn't have that like, that organic messiness to it, that kind of, sure, it's grammatically correct, but like a human struggled and put this weird thing together that didn't land perfectly. And I think that like, perfection, that detached, this is too organized well, and the articulation seems like something I've seen before, is like, I think still gives like organic writing and all of that creativity stuff a huge place in the world. And it's funny because immediately when I saw it, I was like, oh my goodness, writers are screwed. This is going to do to script writing and stuff. And I know there are ways to augment it and use it to maybe do things faster or compress things, but I think it's just a really cool kind of remapping tool, reorganization tool. For coding, on the other hand, depending on your task generation, you can really kind of let it rip. At first, I was very kind of hesitant, and I used to do the copy and paste kind of connect files thing back when a lot of these large language models were initially getting commercialized in 23 and 24 into 25. And then, towards the end of last year, it was kind of build out the plan, decompose the plan into tasks, put those tasks into a markdown format or YAML, and let it kind of rip. So I'm going to go through some of these things for people in like any industry, not just tech. I think tech's just the one that's getting extremely disrupted right now because it was really focused on solving the syntax problem. I think a lot of the researchers were like, if we could solve the syntax problem and have this generate logic, then everything can be software defined and it can help us really kind of elevate and get to hyper automation. So going back to this task compression, the human advantage part of this, I know I was just indexing on task compression, kind of describing that. The human advantage to me is like, where are unique areas that humans can like stitch in. And there's a lot of them, right? I'm not saying it's like something we have to hunt for right now, but it's a way to measure that. And so let's scroll through this, kind of my company, Adjective LLC. So as for the contents, you have the core idea. This framework does not ask whether AI can do your job. It asks a better question. Which parts of your work are likely to be compressed? Which parts become more leveraged? And which parts become more valuable because they remain distinctly human? Hardcore plain speak, just trying to communicate what this is supposed to do for you. And then it really defines what compression means. The core concept behind this framework, when we say a task is being compressed, we mean one or more of the following is happening. It can be done faster. Let me try to zoom in. It can be done faster. Is there a way to slide this over? Nice. It can be done faster. It can be done cheaper. It can be done at a higher volume. It can be done by fewer people. It requires less specialized skill, or the switching cost to an alternative provider is dropping. Compression is not a binary event. It is a gradient. Some tasks are being compressed rapidly. Others are being compressed slowly. Some are not being compressed at all. What compression means for different audiences. For workers, compression means your labor may become easier to substitute, supervise, unbundle, or price down. For companies, compression means your product or service may become easier to replicate, bundle, or commoditize. The question becomes whether you own the compressible layer or the layer above it, the workflow position, the trust relationship, the data advantage, or the integration complexity that keeps customers locked in. For investors, compressions means margin, defensibility, differentiation may erode unless the company owns the harder layer. The most durable positions tend to be built where deployment is difficult. Trust matters or provenance carries price. Value migrates away from abundant compressible output and toward orchestration, integration, exception handling, and verification. Okay. So kind of an overview for how to interpret and read this framework. Score tasks, not titles, specifically, job titles, like what's the actual jobs to be done type tasks. If you heard of that phrase, if you haven't, Google jobs to be done. It can help you really kind of understand the system design side of this whole thing. The scoring scale, each of the 19 core dimensions and the 3 metadata fields is scored from 1 to 5. A score of 1 means the task is strongly resistant to disruption on that dimension. A score of 3 means mixed exposure. Partial automation is likely, but human involvement remains important. A score of 5 means the task is highly exposed on that dimension. 3 scoring layers. Keep it simple, right? Layer 1, technical substitutability. So dimensions 1 through 7. Ask whether the task can technically be performed by AI agents or robots, etc. Layer 2, operational deployability. Dimensions 8 through 13. Ask whether automation can practically be deployed and sustained in a real environment, where the work happens. A task may be technically automatable in a lab, but operationally impractical because the workflow is immature. The stakes are too high, it's too expensive, or the money ratio doesn't work out. Layer 3 is market and governance resistance. So dimensions 14 and 19 ask whether social, legal, and market forces resist or slow automation, even when it is technically and operationally feasible. We see this everywhere. There's a ton of compliance gates, and there's a ton of I'm just going to be honest, I'm not a huge fan of an abundance of compliance that's being issued and arbitrated by people who are unfamiliar with the domain at which they're kind of gatekeeping. You see this a lot in security. You see this a lot in other places. I mean, I'm very grateful for the safety mechanisms associated with compliance, but I think that is one of the underlying reasons why it feels like we're not progressing technically enough, and material reality isn't we're progressing technically, but material reality has never caught up. We still have potholes everywhere. Our healthcare is mixed. You can get like the coolest healthcare in the U.S., but if you go down to the private equity captured hospital, you're going to get triaged, and it's going to be the worst like dollar to experience ratio that you've probably ever experienced. So, I think there's some tricky things around governance, but and who knows where it's going to go? It could get even more hyper governed and more gate kept and more kind of gnarly in that regard, or it could be a little bit more decentralized and honest with the introduction of like artificial intelligence scoring outcomes and assessing things, and potentially smart contracts and things like cryptocurrency and blockchain. Decision metadata, 3 additional fields, 20 through 22, sit beside the core scorecard. They measure frequency and how often the task occurs. Value creation, concentration, how much of the total value is concentrated in this task, and cost weight, how expensive is the task, how the task is to perform today. These fields do not describe disruptability directly. They determine whether disrupting the task actually matters enough to prioritize. All right, so let's get into the actual framework. We're cooking here. So layer 1, technical substitutability, codifiability. Can the task be clearly described as rules, examples, policies, prompts, or procedures? Think, X's code type examples. Can you turn it into something that a machine can clearly understand the context of without having an abundance of tacit knowledge? Input structure, the inputs clean, standardized, and machine readable. Output verifiability. I'd argue that too. You can kind of turn anything into that. That's kind of where I live these days. Always trying to turn things into JSON and machine readable formats. Output verifiability. Can you cheaply and objectively tell whether the output is good? Environmental stability. Does the task happen in a stable, controlled environment? And manipulation burden. How much dexterity, touch, force, control, or spatial judgment is required? I think that's going to be like a sneaky, super important one. That's the one that a lot of people are like, electricians will never be replaced. Plumbers will never be replaced. Because the level of autonomy and the sophistication that you have to introduce in order to trust something to unscrew this thing and turn the water off and like do all these crazy steps to get there, right? You don't want it to hallucinate the way ChatGPT hallucinates about, your website URL. I had it say adjective.dev instead of adjective.us like 30 times in the last month. And it's like, imagine it was doing that with like your plumbing. It's like, no way. So super important. That's one you're going to see a lot of podcasters and tech lords kind of index on. Data sensing and feasibility. Can the system reliably access the data or perceive the environment? Cool. That's a really interesting one. Real-time pressure. How much does the task require? How much does the test require reliable live reaction? Yeah, it's a really good one. Process maturity. How standardized and mature the workflow is already. Workflow independence. Can the task be automated on its own, or is it tangled with adjacent human work? Trying to think of a good example of that, because that's another really good one. That's another really solid one. If there's like some type of maybe psychology gate to what's happening with the automation, or something that's like high touch, deep connective tissue stuff that could keep things from being automated fast. Exception and drift weight for number 10. How often do weird cases or unexpected failures show up? It's a really cool thing to explore. I've been playing with some construction data recently, and that's actually one I want to dig deeper into about some of the different construction activities where, what are the unexpected failures that are related to elevation, slope, other kind of previous previous functions within a project site. I mean, everything kind of happens in sequence or simultaneously. It's like, what are the things that can affect your autonomy or can make your environment more complex? Maintenance burden. How much ongoing tuning, oversight, or calibration does the system need? It's really interesting. Economic incentive. Is there strong cost? Oh, I think for maintenance burden, just to go back to 12 really quick, I could totally foresee this like awesome surge ops world. It's actually like a business concept that I've been kicking around. It's like getting it now would be incredible, and getting the reps in with like early builders, right? Where it's like someone adopts some like radical agentic AI thing. They end up having to, transition their workforce. Imagine, supporting them and saying, hey, like, don't completely, shut the lights off of that division. Instead, have a fraction of that division on call. They'll be on, under confidentiality agreements and trained up and ready to augment the autonomous workflow if it collapses. So you have like 100% surge ops and 100% kind of uptime. So that's fun. Economic incentive. Is there strong cost, speed, scale, or margin pressure to automate? And then layer 5, market and governance resistance, trust and social consequence. And these are things that can be architected, manipulated, and influenced by a ton of different things. How much human trust, legitimacy, or emotional calibration is required? I think a very standard expectation here, and I think there's been some incredible metrics that have come out about it, but it's like surgery. I know people want to be able to trust the robotic experience for surgery, and from what I've read, there's been incredible precision, even some better statistics than what used to be relied upon with a surgeon and their gear, their equipment. So that's really interesting. Liability and reversibility. If the system gets wrong, how severe is the damage? It's a huge movement around automation insurance right now. Number 16 is adversarial pressure. Will the system face spoofing, manipulation, gaming, or fraud? It's kind of a place I'm operating in and trying to protect and create trust around. Regulatory, safety friction, how much law compliance or certification slows deployment. That's a big one for like land and expand, right? Where if you get through all of the compliance gates, your tech doesn't even have to be that interesting. It just has the stamp of saying like, this is safe. I think there's a lot of companies that have made success doing that. And again, it's kind of why we have potholes everywhere, I think. Human preference premium. Do people, I don't want to comment on that. Do people prefer a human doing this even if a machine could? And then authenticity and provenance. This is another area that I'm operating in. Like, can you kind of tell what happened by what, when, and why? It's a really fun one. And then here's the decision metadata. Frequency. How often does this task occur? Value concentration, how much economic, strategic, or mission value is concentrated in this task, and cost weight. What is the labor, delay, risk, or operational burden associated with this task today? And then you can see some of the disruptability scores. Scoring and interpretation, 19 through 35, strong human mode, 36 through 50, human led with AI support, 51 through 65, agent assist, partial automation likely, 66 through 80, strong automation potential, prime disruption candidate. And it gives you some downgrade by one full category of any of the following, trust, social consequence. Cool. Priority for disruption, disruptability score, X frequency, X cost weight. So now, 4 outcomes. Oh, cool. Every score task maps into one of 4 states. These are the plain language interpretation layer. So, sweet. So a replaceable, highly exposed to direct substitution. The market can increasingly buy the output without needing you specifically. Signs highly structured, repeatable, verifiable, low trust burden, low authenticity value, strong cost pressure. All right, cool. We get it. There's going to be more of this stuff. You can scroll through some of these things. There's some tips for, individuals, teams, and organizations. There's some product questions, market questions, and defensibility questions, and then it kind of provides an overarching reference for the framework. So gonna attach this to the video in the form of a Google link to a Google Drive folder. Take a look at it, download it, munge it, have fun with it. Teach me things about this framework. See what it kind of helped influence you to uncover and kind of learn and get excited about. That's part of the fun here, right? And that's a wonderful bridge that I think AI and large language models kind of produce. So let's look at my use case, my old school use case. So right now I have a company called Adjective. We do a bunch of boutique AI development and automation scaling. And so we help organizations. We go in, do some discovery work. We figure out what their workflows are. We help them build out these solutions. A lot of them are very bespoke and focused on air-gapped data and a bunch of interesting industrial use cases. And I've been doing that for the last 3 years. In addition to that, I also have done a ton of like growth support and growth enablement, helping companies sell into different verticals and kind of upskill their salespeople on sales. Yes. So let's try. So before all of that, my kind of OG role was UX engineer and product designer. And so let me dig into that really quick. So my OG role before all of that was product designer, and done a ton of UX engineering across some really interesting government organizations. In the private sector, I've worked with some incredible institutions. I'm super grateful for all of my experiences, but it's kind of really helped me refine things. And I actually haven't been on the B2C side, which I respect so much. I think there's focusing and serving the kind of no crap like business to consumer environment is just, it sharpens you. It makes you so, it's so competitive. It's so raw. It's ruthless. I think I have a lot of respect for that, but I kind of operated in the other world, which was very kind of industrial, kind of lower level problems, compliance burdens that you had to like, iterate around and forced to use certain applications that were approved and stuff. It was really interesting, but that's my background. So I'm going to make this about my UX self and kind of climb through some questions and some prompts around like my old responsibilities, and I'll list out some tasks. So I'm going to say, my name is Rob. I'm a UX designer with a front-end design system management background. I'm going to list out some interesting tasks. Going to list out some interesting tasks that relate to my past jobs, and I want you to help me score it and interpret these tasks and my overarching responsibilities by using this framework. Task 1. I used to have to survey active users in a way that was aligned with our product strategy. I didn't want to annoy them with the surveys, so part of it was very kind of empathy driven and carefully delivered. In my particular area of work, we operated in a close/high trust environment. Task 2, I used to build and manage a assumptions tracker that would help us track our research and validate, invalidate certain assumptions we had about product applicability, feature applicability, and utility. Task 3. I used to design and improve a list of user personas that could help us deliver features, user stories for particular types of end users that had quirks, and this helped us risk reduce the things we wanted to build and deliver. Task 4. I used to partner with business analysts to determine the financial upside of different product roadmaps and directions, and how it would relate to the success of a business. Cool. I'm going to save these just in case it freaks out, but should I do extended thinking or standard? I don't know. I'll do extended for now and see how it works. Let it cook a little bit. But this is really exciting. I'm curious because it was fun to reflect on like the past two, like all these tasks that I still incorporate into the way I work today. It's just I kind of focus on different things for partners and customers. Ooh, turning your forecast into task level scores rather than scoring your title, since the framework explicitly says to score the work bundle at the task level, not the profession. It's kind of cool. I think we're just trained to always map everything up to kind of a title, and there's a lot of industry expectations around your titles and stuff. Are you a graphic designer? Are you a UX designer? Are you a UX researcher? Are you a UI engineer? You know, there's just so many subcategories for everything. And I know this is like tech centric or maybe design centric. Perhaps there's a cooler, you know, kind of more broad use case that I could run through another time with this framework. Or honestly, like, not to be that guy, but if you wouldn't mind, if you happen to pull this down and run it through your own kind of LLM experience, I would really appreciate kind of what you've learned by trying to apply this framework to your experience. And also give me feedback on this format. It's kind of a new format I'm running for my channel. I originally just used to play Diablo 4 and kind of whine about things, but this is like kind of a new vulnerable format where I'm just looking at kind of uncovering some of the complexities of life that, you know, we may all think about but don't have a chance to kind of put down on paper. And that's what I'm trying to do. And kind of doing this has helped me learn a lot about things. So, damn, GPT, taking forever. It's really thinking here. Better get some serious logic as an output. All right, cool. So it just produced the summary table for our prompt. That was the 4 fun UX tasks that I listed out. I'm also going to scroll around this depending on the particular category. But so we have the tasks over here listed on the left. Raw disruptability, we'll look at the score right here. So just kind of mapping it to the raw disruptability. So this high trust user surveying kind of task example I provided scored it at 57. And it's, which means agent assist, partial automation likely, framework banned, agent assist, partial automation likely, adjustment, trust score equals 1. So downgrade one category because there was that super kind of like specialist high consequence environment for the surveying where you can just, you know, mass mail people. And I don't think that strategy works anyway. I think that's like a failed AI use case. People can argue with me about that all day. It's like everyone deletes their AI slop mail. Final read, human led with AI support. And so this other section right here, FVC, is the meta categories. Where are you? Decision metadata. So the frequency, the value concentration, and the cost weight. And this received 3, 4, and 3. Priority for disruption is 513, where you can see it tied some other things. It's tied for the lowest on the list. Strategic preservation means higher number means that there's value in keeping it. Strategic preservation, keep it around. There's some human element to keep it, to not kind of completely replacing it. And so that is the first task. And then you look at the assumptions tracker, which is a raw disruptability score of 63, which is kind of much higher. And that is agent assist, partial automation likely. No adjustment for this one. There's no final read. It's just the same as what the original framework band was assigned. This scored as a 4, 4, and a 3. Priority for disruption very high, so disrupt the crap out of generating and managing an assumptions tracker. It's actually kind of cool. It's fun for automation techniques. I have like an interesting opinion about this particular one because I think the input isn't easy to source, but if you can automate kind of creative generation based on a code base for the input, it can allow you to generate assumptions around opportunities to solve for a product. and then you can use that as a substrate for the product to dog food itself. So you have agents that are managing a code base, look at the assumptions tracker, generate tasks based on those assumptions. They could be prototyping, simulation tasks, whatever, to then drive out what you actually decide to build for the app. But that can be just completely automated in the background. That actually flickered something. You look at this scoring and you're like, oh, assumptions tracker, it's a freaking Excel sheet or some other kind of, Airtable list. And it's like, oh my goodness, it's actually kind of sneaky cool to create a product for. And so high priority for disruption, low strategic preservation. So that's that one. Number 3, personas for delivery and risk reduction. Agent assist, partial automation likely. Wow, that's scoring a lot. 57, tied for the previous one. Very similar scores for the metadata, and same priority for disruption. That's kind of tied. So personas are interesting because I think like the management of the data within a persona is completely automated. But the kind of really the creative thought that goes into who and why, I think is really important. And if you can work quickly with AI and also always keep the AI in check whenever you're doing these like high EQ, high emotional quotient related tasks, it can help guide you in a really powerful way. And you could end up with super dependable output that, normally might just be AI placating you if you just try to steamroll something that has deeper implications. And that gave me an idea to create kind of another axes here around the impact of the task. I think that's really important too on the system. And then 4, financial upside of roadmap decisions. This one scored lower for raw disruptability because this is the one where I was talking about partnering with the business analyst on. Has the agent assist / partial automation likely. Trust score equals 0, so downgrade to 1 category. Human led with AI support. This one uniquely has a 5 and a 4 instead of a 4 and a 3 for what was that, value and cost? Value concentration and cost weight. Cool. Interesting. So priority for disruption, a bit higher than the others, but lower than the assumptions tracker, and very aligned on strategic preservation. So it's not so low that it's like, all right, just automate, get rid of it, just totally get rid of it. Assumptions tracker, we don't need anyone doing that, get rid of it. And then I guess the business goal is like, who can do this faster, right? And make it more consumable and easy to acquire. All right. Right on. So that's all I have. That's kind of a first stab at this format. I had a lot of fun kind of thinking through this new framework and reflecting on, this exact example. If you wouldn't mind, I would love for anyone who's stumbled upon this video to take the PDF, throw it into your LLM, interpret it, compare it to some of the tasks you're working on, and please share them in the comments. I mean, we could do this stuff really fluidly. Would really dig hearing what some of the other folks that stumbled upon this video do for a living or want to do for a living, or you can spin this in a bunch of ways where you have like a projected experience or projected task that you're doing. But yeah, I can't wait to see what you come up with. This is really fun. Thank you so much.